Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of our Terraria 1.2 Let's Play. This is episode 71 and it's actually not even Terraria 1.2 anymore. This is now Terraria 1.2.3 and I have something a little bit different and special planned for us today, something a little bit out of the ordinary, and hopefully you guys enjoy this. I figured what we'd do for the day is we'll actually go through all the patch notes. This is a pretty significant and huge patch, and we'll sort of see what we can see out of what's there, what's changed, what's new, what we might still need to go after, or what might not be possible to go after given how far we are into the series now. Probably not much of that, considering how easy it is to start a new world after all. But I thought that would be kind of a neat way to bring in the new stuff. So I think we're actually pretty near to the completion of the game, to the point where they might not be supporting it after a little while. I think there's only like maybe one or two more big patches, if that even, before the entire thing is over with. So I think it'll be kind of cool. We'll get a lot of this stuff done, have a look at it all, and demonstrate what we can. So I've got all the lists next to me here. There's a lot of stuff to go over. This may end up taking the whole episode. In fact, it very likely will. So hopefully you guys are cool with that. You know, grab a cup of coffee or grab a drink or a cereal or, you know, whatever snack you want to. Sit back, relax, and we will demonstrate some stuff. And there may be some crashes or some bugs because, as I've found out in my earliest recording attempt at this, I've already hit a crash like within the first one patch note. So we'll do our best here, and if things get super boring, maybe I'll head to hell and try and farm up that fire feather that I've been after to make that sweet set of wings. So I should mention also before we get started, if you've been waiting to get into Terraria for some reason, this patch is probably one of the most definitive patches that I've seen so far, that seems to sort of round out a lot of features that have been sorely missing or lacking from the game for a very long time. Some big ones that we're going to get to pretty much right away, actually. So why don't we just jump into things. And probably you've noticed already our character here looks a little bit different from normal, and there's a reason for that. This is one of the biggest reasons that this patch is kind of a big deal, and I guess we'll go down to the house now, sitting up there. So now you actually have the ability to toggle on and off your accessories, and you can also have cosmetic accessories as well. So that's kind of a huge deal. If we look in our usually inventory screen here, you can see that all of these can now be dyed and have a social slot next to them. So every single one of my accessories can be turned on or off, whether or not you can see them. You can have our character look pretty much the way he looked before if you want, or, you know, just put one of these on and just have the wings. Actually, I guess, yeah, I did have the wings on before. But then we can also have a social set of wings. So if we want to look completely different to this, that's totally fine. We can make this completely customizable, and we can even dye all of these so we can have the most cohesive-looking character possible. But that also changes the amount of dye that's necessary if you want to have a complete set, which is going to be kind of arduous, in my opinion, but, you know, also cool that you can even do it. So that's kind of a huge plus to having this patch in particular. So why don't we start at the top of the list now that I've already hit one of the biggest points. Let's see here. So the first big one is that we can rename our chests. And that is the thing that I said got me into trouble here. Now I'll click and show you what I'm talking about without hopefully triggering what got me into a crash. So if I click rename now, there's going to be a caret that shows up, or cursor next to the chest. And presumably you'd be able to then backspace, rewrite in a name. For me, at least, what was happening was it just wasn't allowing me to toggle anything or write anything in there. It was actually stuck exactly like that. And then if you hit cancel or just hit escape straight out of that, actually it was only escape. If you hit cancel you were fine, or save you were fine. But if you closed out this menu like this normally, the way you generally would to leave your inventory or whatever you happen to be navigating through, it would actually just sort of lock up the game in a weird way. Like, all the NPCs and sprites would freeze in place, and you couldn't do anything other than open your menu again, and you weren't really able to get back out of that mode. So I guess there's going to be probably another patch very quickly soon after this to address that situation. It's going to be curious, too, when we get further into the patch notes. I know some of these decisions were a little bit controversial, but I think some of them may have also changed a little bit since the first I've heard of them anyway. So here's another really big one. They've added an in-game settings menu. This is something that I can't believe it's taken this long for them to actually add in. So now if we go to the bottom right corner, instead of just saying save and quit, they've actually moved save and quit into this menu. We can now go to General, Video, Controls, Map Controls, or actually Leave. So all the stuff you could pretty much get to from the outside menu, you can now access from inside the game, and that's pretty awesome. So I'm really happy to see that this is a thing that's finally made its way in. And some of these controls, like, you might have even forgotten about, so it's kind of nice to be able to access them even if you just are forgetful like me. So next thing, there's now options for ambient sound. Okay, so I guess you couldn't control that before. It was probably lumped in with sound effects or music or something like that. Save and exit is now in the settings menu. We've talked about that already. Added sliders for parallax and volume settings. Very nice. So I guess you can have the background. Parallaxing is essentially like when you're walking along and the stuff behind, see how it scrolls at a different pace to the foreground, giving you the sense of perhaps a little bit of depth. Maybe you can adjust how quickly those things move. Let's actually see if we can adjust that from here. Was that in this setting? Yeah, parallax is at 0. So if we set it to 100, what's that going to do? I don't know, is it going faster? It doesn't really look like it. Hard to tell. Alright, well, I don't know. It's there. There's a slider for it. I'm sure somebody in the comments knows exactly what it does. Having it on 0 seems like then you would probably have the background freeze, or maybe we're talking about a totally different set of parallaxing. Maybe there's other things that I'm not thinking about here. So next one, game now loads at saved resolution and even remembers if you used maximized window. That's a big one, because a lot of the times when I've played this, I've noticed actually if you launch it in windowed, it'll jump to like a square window for some reason, even though I always use 1280 by 720 when I do that. When I record, I use full screen, but I have had that be an issue in the past. So I guess very nice they've sorted that out. Another thing that I find to be sort of formational with the game that I feel like should have probably been addressed a long while ago, but glad it is now. Reforging now costs 1/3 of the item's value instead of 1/2, so they've actually made a pretty substantial cut to the amount that you'll need to spend on a reforge. I like that quite a bit, especially now that I've spent most of my money already doing the reforges that I needed to do. That's sarcasm there, but there's going to be a few decisions like that it's like, well, too late for me, but some of you out there may be spared. This crow seems to be having a lot more trouble getting through this wall than I remember him usually having issues with. Anyway, next thing, you can now turn platforms into stairs using the hammer. Alright, that seems pretty neat. Can I demonstrate that out in some way here without wrecking everything? Oh, yeah, there they are. So we've now got stairs. That's really cool, actually. Just the way you could turn corners upside down, or, you know, turn them around in different ways. Now, I guess this is another option that you can mess around with a little bit. This is another huge one. Added infinite wiring support across the map. This is something that I found very frustrating, in fact, because there was sort of an artificial limit to how long you could make wiring, and the reason, really, the only reason that I think would be a big deal with this stuff is because, essentially, in the past, you'd have to make little conduits that are like little stop points if you wanted to wire something far away to something else far away. Now I guess we don't really need to do that anymore. We can just wire stuff directly to anywhere we want on the map, and to be perfectly honest, if I really wanted to, I could now wire my entire map in one go. My map is also gone, so I guess that's something that I'll need to work on. That's a little bit frustrating, but, you know, such is the nature of a patch, I suppose. So I guess we'll stop teleporting around like a madman at this point, and maybe at one point I'll go ahead and wire these straight to where I wanted them to go. And I suppose now I could even make another one that goes directly to my dungeon if I really feel like spending all the money investing in wiring and then spending the time to actually set up a wire across the whole landscape again like I did in the other direction. Robe graphics have been updated. Okay, very nice. Doesn't really make a huge difference to me right now. I guess robes would be... I might be wearing a robe, right? Let's toggle off my accessories here. Some of these accessories just like wouldn't display on your character, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I remember thinking his feet look kind of weird. It looks like they might wiggle a little bit more now. They sort of seem like they were in place. Now there's like a couple of pixels moving around. When he jumps, yeah, I guess there's a little bit more of a gap, perhaps, between his legs. In the past, I think it was just sort of like a strange little chunk that would be displayed at the bottom. Whatever. That's not a huge one. Little tiny refinements are nice as well. Updated music box graphics. Each music box now has a unique design. I don't actually own any music boxes, so I can't really show you guys that one, unfortunately. Music notes now come from music boxes. Very nice. Update the graphics for Cobalt Shield, Obsidian Shield, and Paladin Shield. That's pretty neat. As you probably saw that already, I had my... oh, that's an Ankh Shield. That isn't any of those, is it? Yeah, that's not going to help me out. Cobalt Shield was a thing that went into the making of that, but I guess it's not really a big deal. Okay, you can now place switches and levers on walls. That's kind of huge. That means when we're dealing with teleporters and stuff like this, I guess I could now move this to over there. Is that enough? Well, I don't have my wiring stuff with me, so I guess I won't bother, because I don't even have to move the wire over to match where that is. But yeah, hopefully that's what that does. Could be kind of a nice little thing. Accessories now have the option to be visible and showing your character can be toggled on or off. Yet we kind of talked about that. We can now wear vanity wings. Wings can be dyed. Dyes are now stackable. Alright, so we covered everything up until that point. Dyes being stackable, though, actually will save me a whole bunch of inventory space. And actually is a huge deal, because it means I don't have to worry, when I just had mentioned a moment ago how there's like a million slots now for dyes. I can actually just use one of these per. And look at all the space this conserves. That's like almost a whole chest I just got back. Neat. Alright, so it's going to make sorting this much, much more convenient. And buckets, you know, I've never really had to carry a ton of buckets around, but if I wanted to build some sort of lava area, I suppose that would be handy. Not having to fill up your entire inventory with that. Ore now stacks to 999. That's pretty huge, isn't it? Ore used to only stack to 99, didn't it? Let's... where do I have some ore? Up here I should have some ore, most likely. None of these go beyond 99, though, because that's when I would always turn them into bars. Oh, wait, meteorite says 248. Is that what we're talking about? Maybe meteorite doesn't count as ore? There's probably going to be some misinformation in this video. My apologies ahead of time for that. It's I'm only speaking out of minor ignorance. Many of these issues will be sorted after this episode when I get to see your responses to them and also get to play a little bit with this patch. Because this is actually the first time I booted up the game with the patch, so I'm still learning a little bit of this as I go. You can now change cloth colors at a dresser. Oh, so I can, like, re-dye things, I suppose? I don't think I have a dresser, though. What counts as a dresser? Do I have some wood in my inventory? I do. Sawmill, I suppose. Let's see if I can just build a dresser right now, just out of curiosity. What's a dresser? There's a dresser. Alright, we've got a dresser. I don't know where... We'll put it up here, I guess, because there's already a dyeing station. I guess we could put that near it. Oh, look at this. This is really cool. So I can change my default clothing options. That's what this is all about. So if I wasn't wearing anything and I moved all my stuff out of my inventory, I guess that's what we would be manipulating. Let's just see. Yeah, so there's my default setup. Probably haven't seen this in quite a while. Oh yeah, now I can actually just do that. That is really cool. So this is one of those things that we'd never had access to change before, that all of a sudden now it is possible. Everything's possible. Alright, cool. Alright, that's a really nice feature that I never even thought I would care about or want. But I kind of did. So, now we know. Right, let's put this all back the way it was. Oh, can I? I think I can right-click that all back on. Alright, next one. Added Control plus Z, X, or C or V to clear, cut, copy, and paste into lines, respectively. So that way, I guess if you're talking in chat and you needed to pass a link on or something, I suppose that would be why you would use that. Added Shift plus Insert, Shift plus Delete, Control plus Insert for paste, cut, and copy, respectively. So basically, like, some kind of typical rich text type formatting stuff that you can now do with chat. I'm not really going to demonstrate that because there's not really a reason for me to. What is this? Added the ability to mine multiple tiles without resetting the hit count on every tile. That sounds like a fundamentally different way that the game works, actually. Let's go dig into some ground and see if that means anything. You know what? We're probably not going to have that matter for us a whole lot, considering everything I use this pickaxe on is going to be killed in one hit. So maybe you'll just have to take my word for that one. That'll be a thing that manifests basically instantly for anyone playing the game, so I just don't have a better pickaxe to demonstrate. My apologies. Increased tile limit to 6,000 or 65,536. That is a lot. I don't know what the tile limit was before or why that actually counts really against us, because how would you ever go over the tile limit, right? I don't entirely understand what that means, but the fact that it is now very likely much, much higher seems cool. So maybe there's a reason that that matters to us, but we'll probably hear about that one in the comments. So next one, added cactus variations. That's why I came here to show you. These cacti look quite different. They were a little bit boring and plain before. They look pretty cool now, I guess. They look a little bit starboundy, to be honest. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just the first observation I noticed. And again, no correlation. I'm not trying to make any kind of contentious statements here about starbound, so we don't need to go there on that one. I guess we could hang out in the arena for a while and let these guys farm. Maybe you'll get a rainbow jelly will show up or something. And I'm sure probably a megaphone or some junk will also show up too. Alright, next thing, added biome-specific stalactite variations. So we've actually got now chances for different cave formations that we might not have seen before in a brand new world. Very likely that I will spawn a bunch of new worlds in my pursuit for a sandstorm in the bottle that I've been looking for, a sandstorm in a bottle. So likely we'll see all that stuff in the coming days. Next thing, you can now place saplings on all grass types. I guess you couldn't do that in the past, so if you're maybe going to a corrupted biome or some other type of alternate grass, maybe even the hallowed biome or something like this, like over here, maybe I wasn't able to plant saplings. It's not really a problem that's ever come up for me, so I'm not really sure I know. But there it is. Oh, I guess we've triggered traps. What did one of those slimes probably jumped in there? Alright, next one. Reduce the effect of campfire and heart lantern regeneration. That kind of sucks, I guess. That's basically turning down my ability to survive in some of these very difficult fights, I guess. The fact that I have campfires all over the place as well as these heart lanterns, well, we'll see if that's a huge deal the next time I decide to do a frost moon. Ancient Shadow armor drop rate was reduced slightly. Okay, whatever. Not really all that worked up about that. I haven't tried to really collect all of the Ancient Shadow armor, but I think I've gotten a few pieces of it regardless, so I guess it's going to be a little bit harder to find now. Multi-core lighting now added in the options menu, so I guess if you have a multi-core processor on your CPU, you might be able to get a little bit more mileage out of that when it comes to the lighting rendering options with this. That's kind of cool. You know, any extra hardware options are always cool by me. Can't really imagine too many people would be upset about that. There are now critter sounds, so I suppose the birds and or squirrels or bunnies that we see hopping around might now make little chirping sounds or something. I don't think I have ambient sounds turned up very high, so maybe we won't notice right away. Added sounds for waterfalls and lava falls. That's kind of a big deal, actually. I'm not sure, again, though, if I have ambient sounds turned up enough that we'll be able to notice, but I kind of do want to see if we can hear. So why don't we just, we'll jump back to the house real quickly, and then we'll jump down to the pit. And I'm pretty sure there were some waterfalls without too much difficulty that we should be able to check out, and you know, if ambient sounds are high enough, maybe we can actually hear them rushing or something like that. Hopefully this isn't a thing I need to, like, regen my world for. Kind of doubt it. Oh yeah. There it is. It's real quiet, but I think it's about the amount of volume that you would kind of want this to have. Just a little, you know, gentle rushing water sound. Lava falls, I'm sure we could also get to pretty quickly if we wanted to fall down a little bit further. Makes me wonder what happens when they dissipate, though, because some of these waterfalls just sort of fade away into the air. Is it actually... does it dynamically load the sound as we fall? Oh yeah, it does. I guess it's a proximity-based thing, which is pretty reasonable. Alright, lava fall. I imagine you're going to be around here somewhere. Cobwebs getting in my way again. I was actually farming cobwebs at one point because I needed to create a bunch of cloth to make those presents for the frost moon. Oh, you're going to follow me down. Oh, there's one. Oh yeah, it's got a blurpy sound. Blurpy blurp. Alright, cool. Can you hear it? Yeah, I should probably turn the ambient sounds up. Oh, I see that dude has one of these guys. I want to grab that. The more voodoo dolls, the better. You never know when you're going to have to start farming again. Very likely I will have to farm a bunch of times. There's still some more things that I need to grab. Extra accessories and the like. Anyway, next one. Birds are now more likely to spawn in mornings. Each type has several songs to sing. That's kind of adorable, actually. I can't really demo that one out, but oh well. Oh, Eladon, the traveling merchant, has arrived. I guess we've gotten a little bit ahead of ourselves. That was one of the things that I was going to demo out eventually, but I guess he's going to jump in and make his presence known. So why don't we go back up to the top, and we'll go give a talk to him. He's a little bit further down in the list here. Not sure where he's gonna live, though. Do we have a situation where... Oh, there he is. Alright, this guy, I guess. I don't refund for buyer's remorse or for any other reason, really. So, as far as I'm aware, what he does is he's got a set of random objects that we can buy from him, and I'm not sure what determines those objects, but every time, I guess it's a little bit different, or each day, is it? I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get to him. So I'm going to probably end up buying all of those just because they might not be there again next time. Neat. I like this. This is a nice addition, I think. I mean, there's a lot of NPCs, and I'm not really disputing that or anything, but still, that's kind of a cool one. Alright, when you hover over text in the interface menu, the text now turns yellow. Yeah. No, it doesn't, actually. The interface menu, maybe in here. But actually, when you hover over it, it turns white. But I won't judge. I'm not actually 100% sure I know what this is referring to. Maybe in the main menu or something like that. Whatever. They probably mean the main menu. I'm pretty sure I saw that. They replaced Tree 9's graphic. Apparently, Tree 9 was in dire need of some repainting, so they went ahead and replaced it. Tree 9, I don't know which tree you were, but you look different now, and that's cool. Next. Players have a longer respawn delay after a non-PvP death with a boss alive in multiplayer, I guess to keep people from respawning and ganging up on the bosses together, making life a little bit too easy. We don't want that. Dark tiles on the map no longer tell you what they are when moused over. I wasn't aware that they ever did that, actually, but apparently they did. So these places, we don't know what they are, even when we mouse over them. Man, this sucks that I have to rebuild my map again, but, you know, I guess I can just do that one day. Maybe I'll just pick a day when I'm not doing anything interesting, and I'll just run around. There's still a lot of places I haven't explored, though, to be fair, so I guess not the end of the world. Next thing. Added upside-down slopes. That's kind of a big one. So if I go down to someplace like over here, I guess we could use to demo out. That is the wrong hammer. I wanted this one. Right, so now I should be able to do that, which looks kind of interesting, actually. So now we can actually make slopes in every possible direction. That's actually a lot of permutations that each one of these goes through. But I'm glad that you can do it, because there were a lot of types of different sculptural figures that you couldn't make without the ability to flip those tiles over like that. So that's, again, another one of those formational patch notes that I think should have probably been done a little while ago, since we had the ability to change slopes anyway a while back. Was it a while back? It was probably at least a bunch of months ago. I don't know. So, upside-down slopes now spawn in new worlds, so that's sort of a continuation of the last one. Sounds good to me. Using mana potions now puts a debuff on the player that lowers magic damage based on the amount of time left. Okay, that's just kind of one of those things that changes a slight bit about the way the game works. I don't know that that was really necessary, to be perfectly honest. I had to read it a couple of times to make sure I understood exactly what it was saying. But it's just sort of punishing you for using mana potions the same way that they punish you for using health potions now. Or did, rather. Spelunker no longer gives off light. This prevents ore from showing up on the map. So they don't want the Spelunker enemy that shows up in the caves to be giving away the positions of things in the map, so that way he might be like slightly out of your viewpoint, and then you end up seeing where there's a big ore cache or something. Whatever, as the little one. Spelunker now causes ore to be gold-colored on the screen. Oh, are we talking about the potion? No, they would say potion, I'm pretty sure. So the Spelunker actually highlights the ore. Maybe I misunderstood that. Hunter Potion no longer gives off light. Enemies will appear in red. Friendly creatures appear in green. Fair enough. Slightly reduced the chance for rain. Yeah, I did notice in my last few times playing this game, it seemed like it was constantly raining, so that's neat. Glad to have a little bit less. Pyramids are now slightly more common. I'm totally cool with that. The more pyramids, the better. I like pyramids in general. They have a thing that I need out of them, and if we don't have to worry about not having them spawn quite as infrequently, then I'll be happy. So, yay. That's a positive one. Waterleaf now only blooms in the rain. That kind of makes sense. That's just kind of a lore thing, I suppose, if the developers choose to make something seem a little bit more simulatory, if that might be the right word for it, I guess. I don't know. Simulatory really applies to a fantasy world, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. Life crystals no longer spawn in the dungeon. Why? That's weird. I don't really understand the point of that one, but I guess they're too concentrated or something. They didn't like that, so they got rid of it. Anyway, that's all of the new features. Now we've got a list of new items. This is probably going to go by a little bit faster because I can't really demo out the list of new items as much as I can just kind of read them. So we're just going to hang out here and let this dude turret away, and hopefully some of the big boss demon man will show up and we can maybe get a fire feather. We're not getting a fire feather today, don't worry. New items. We've added several new paint colors, brown, shadow, and negative paint. That's going to be interesting to take a look at. I'm not sure what those are going to look like, actually. Negative paint? Is that just an inverse color scheme or something? I kind of wish I had made up a batch of that because it sounds pretty cool. But maybe in a future episode I will try that out. We've got team dye, changes colors depending on team. That's actually really cool. So if you're somebody who plays this game with a little bit of like a sports bent to it, because I know that there are a few games that people have made up in some of the mods and various things, that's going to make things a little bit easier and more fun for you. So big plus there. I think that's a big positive. Next one, we've added beetle armor. 2 different chest pieces, one for melee offense and one for melee defense. So that's another set of armor that I guess I'm going to be looking for from beetles. And I will try and formulate that as soon as possible. Not in this episode today, unfortunately, but as soon as I can. Next one, we've got beetle husks to craft beetle armor. Okay, so that drops from the golem, so I guess there's a reason to fight the golem some more. Fine with me. Added beetle wings. I guess a new set of wings that I can add to my pile to find eventually. We added a shroomite digging claw. Alright, that's fine. I guess another thing from the shroomite set that I didn't have yet. Gem spark blocks and gem spark block waterfalls. It's a new type of block that I haven't seen quite yet. We've added a womanikin. Alright, so that we've got now both genders for mannequins, which sounds great. No reason not to have had those. Oh, look, a demon showed up. Let's go hit him up with some razor pine action. Guy thinks he's so tough. Red devil. Man, I wish he dropped the thing. It's never gonna happen. I don't know why this one item is so rare. You know, I've farmed every single one of those key molds, and yet still haven't found that. I probably haven't spent nearly the same amount of time, though, but still. Where are we? Next one, we've added several new wallpapers for the painter. Okay, I don't really use wallpapers, but that's probably cool for people who are big into decorating. The painter, in general, is just sort of one of those cosmetic things that I haven't really spent any time with, but maybe some point I will build a lovely and elaborate mansion. Maybe in a new world, even. Oh, look, another demon. Alright, next one. Where are we at? You can now craft an animated steampunk tile set out of cogs. That sounds awesome, actually. There haven't really been any animated tiles, as far as I'm aware, other than the rainbow blocks, right? So that's pretty cool. I don't know if that's going to pave the way toward anything else being changed or new about the way tiles are handled, but that's I like the idea of animated stuff like that. I think it adds a little bit more dynamicism. Dynamicism? Is that a word? Dynamism. That's the one. To the concept of the game, so I'm for that. Added several new weapon racks that can be made at a sawmill. Alright, new places to store weapons. I'm down with it. All bosses now have a chance to drop a boss mask. I'm not sure what that is, but another thing that bosses drop is probably fine. Although a little bit frustrating at times if it's a thing that I'm not going to probably have access to, considering how many times I've already fought pretty much every one of the bosses in the game. Oh man, I don't have my mana cuffs on. That's why I am not getting anything back from this. What do I usually swap out here? I guess the boots. I don't really need these right now. So I have to take a little bit of damage and then I'll end up with some more mana so I can fight again. Anyway, next one. Added waterfall and lava fall walls. These are craftable by having a crystal ball and glass near a water or lava source. Interesting. So I guess you can turn it into like one of those like therapeutic water walls that you can then have, like a new type of fountain. Could be nice for making shrine type places, I suppose. And plus, I just kind of want to see what a waterfall or lava fall... Oh, he left already. The traveling merchant already departed. That's dumb. I didn't get the chance to buy anything. So there you go. You've been warned. You don't have a ton of time for that stuff. Next one. The merchant now sells a bug net. That sounds like a neat thing to do, as it sort of opens the door for a whole new set of mini quest type options, doesn't it? You know, having bug net means you're probably going to start capturing things. If you start capturing things, it means you're probably going to do stuff with them. As far as I know, the only thing you do with them at the moment, though, is you can collect them and put them in jars, or cages, rather. So we'll get to that in a few moments, though. So next one, you can now catch and release several critters using the bug net. There you go. Now place critters in cages. Alright, we've added crimson seeds. Don't know what that does yet. Probably makes some kind of crimson plant, or furthers the crimson biome, or something like that. Added 8 new crafting stations. Holy crap, that's a lot of crafting stations. How many new crafting stations do we really need? And here we go. Added over 100 new furnitures to existing tile sets. So that is a lot of more furniture that we can now use to customize our wonderful homes. I'm about to die also. I wasn't really looking at my health there because I had my eyes over on the other screen. That's kind of annoying. Okay, well, next one. Added heavy workbench, added copper plating stone slabs and sandstone slabs. These are crafted at the heavy workbench. So, you know, more stuff to craft. Always positive, I suppose. If you're the collecting type like me, though, that might be a little frustrating, because the amount of things you need to now archive has just, I don't know how many times more it just increased by, but if there's 100 more pieces of furniture, as well as 8 new crafting stations, sounds like there's going to be a lot more work ahead. Next one, added venom staff. Alright, I guess, well, we had a poison staff before, so why not go for venom as well? And we've added super mana potions, so more mana potions for those of us who need those, and they've also, again, been counteracted with having sort of a debuff punishment for using them. So, you know, you have access to them, but probably don't use them because they're just going to make your life harder. That's my cynical way of looking at the situation. The more rational way is to just say, well, that's cool, more potions. Next thing, we're now on NPC category. We've added a stylist. Sells rare hair dye, changes hair color and style, spawns in spider caves. She'll also sell new hairstyles. That's pretty cool, so you can customize your character a little bit further now that we've got the wardrobe that we had already shown that lets you change your clothes options. I guess you can also change your hair, so you can basically become a completely new character once you're far enough into the progression of the game that you can unlock those NPCs or items. So that's cool, I like that. Added 20 new friendly critters. That is a lot more friendly critters. I had no idea there would be 20 more of them. I'm not even sure quite how many critters there were before, but I felt like there were only a handful of them. You know, the bunnies, the birds, there was like a cardinal, a seagull, and then, of course, the squirrel. And that's pretty much all that's coming to my mind. So, yeah, that's a lot more things to see and experience. So we'll probably check those out at some point. They'll probably just show up, to be perfectly honest, in our exploits of looking around for stuff. Next thing, traveling merchant. Oh, okay, here's the details on him I was thinking about before. So he will randomly show up once you have at least 2 NPCs and stay for 1 day. Oh, okay, right. I should have read that more carefully. His inventory will always be random and present things he found in his time spent traveling. He has over 30 different things he can sell. Cool. So that's good to know. Got to make sure you buy out everything he's got if you're the archivist type. And I missed my opportunity to do that, so I guess I'm just going to have to spend a little bit more time watching his inventory. Alright, so now we've cleared out the majority of all the important stuff. Now, though, we enter the world of balancing, which is where I think the contentious things would most likely be. So the first thing on the list of hard mode balance changes is the key molds have had their drop rate drastically increased. So as someone who just finished farming for the key molds fairly recently, I'm not going to say it was like just yesterday or anything, but, you know, fairly recently, that's kind of frustrating because they weren't that awful that I feel like they completely were broken. I felt like they were supposed to be a reward for a lot of time spent, but at the same time, I guess I kind of understand where they're coming from with that, considering, you know, this is a thing that by the time you get any of those items, the amount of time you're going to spend grinding means that you're probably already going to have outclassed those items anyway, so maybe it's not really the best idea to have them be that hard to get. I don't know. Probably not the best, most qualified person to say, but that's kind of my 2 cents. It could be a positive change for anybody who hasn't gotten them already. And for people like BitSnap, who found them very annoying to grind for. I actually enjoyed the grind for whatever reason, because I'm a masochist like that. But anyway, that's that. Ice Golem now drops a frozen core that is used with hollow bars to craft frost armor. So that's a balancing change meant to progress gate the player, I would say. Because you could essentially, as soon as you get to hard mode, if you went right after those golems and were lucky, you could end up with a pretty big advantage early on, which would then sort of make it a little bit harder to have to follow the prescribed path that I think you're supposed to go on as you work your way toward getting, you know, the requisite armor along a sort of linear path. Because as you probably know, this stuff is all relatively planned out for players. It's not like you're just supposed to just, you know, flounder about. Pretty sure you're supposed to follow a path of some kind anyway. So yeah, that's added for that reason. The next thing, the pickaxe now requires 1 soul, or pickaxe axe, rather, requires 1 soul from each mech boss to craft, meaning mechanical. So one of the hard mode bosses each time. And the pickaxe axe is not one that I have on me right now. So I guess it's just another progress gating mechanism. The Drax requires a soul from each boss to craft. So it sounds like pretty much most of the items that were endgame-ish items before that were sort of thrown away out of the linear progression element are sort of now put back into that. It's no longer such a wild, wild west scenario when it comes to hard mode and post-hard mode item acquisition. So next thing, Plantera's bulb doesn't spawn until all 3 mech bosses are defeated. I think prior to that it was like any one of them could be defeated, and then you could skip right to Plantera. So, you know, no more sequence breaking for you scumbags out there who wanted to have fun and play the game. I don't know. However, whatever order you felt like. Mech bosses are now slightly more difficult. Okay, well that's something, I guess. Make bosses harder. You cannot summon the golem until after Plantera has been defeated. Again, this is about putting things into order. I think the vast majority of almost all the changes here are going to be about that. To just make sure people follow, you know, the line. The golem has had its life, defense, and damage increased slightly. Okay, no big deal. Golem didn't seem that difficult to me in the first place, so I can kind of handle that, especially now that I have items that far outclass him anyway. Okay, so here's a big deal for the golem, because this is one of the few things that made this boss kind of unique, is his attacks did not penetrate walls. So you could basically cheese him every single time. You just go find a ceiling tile and you go stand up above it. He's going to punch wildly at you. He's never going to hit you. Now that's not going to be the case anymore. It looks like the golem is going to be able to punch straight through the ceiling at you and hit you through walls. So, yeah. Golem's attacks now penetrate walls. Golem now shoots 2 beams if you are directly above or below him to stop people from camping like me. No more camp strats anymore, guys. I guess we're going to have to refine our golem fighting technique. So, that kind of is... well, it is what it is. I guess it kind of needed to happen if we wanted to make this challenging. Increased golem fist damage and knockback. Hopefully the items that have already spawned with the previous amount of damage will be adjusted on the fly, or do I need to now reacquire those items for them to show up at the proper damage level? That's going to be a question for you guys in the comments. Feel free to let me know if the damage rates do actually change by loading in a patch, or do I need to reacquire those items or reseed a world or something like that. That's a little worrisome. I hope not, because otherwise all of the items I've got would be kind of useless if they change their stats on them. Next one, increase the size of temple boss rooms. That's probably a good call, because I've seen some pretty small ones, and it's a little frustrating fighting a gigantic boss that can hit you through the walls if you have nowhere to run. Alright, where did I go? Wasp gun damage increased by 3. Nice, I guess. Golden Shower debuff time was reduced by 10 seconds. Okay. That sucks, because that means when I debuff people, they're going to be off their defense debuff, like, way faster than they were prior. So not super happy about it. Look, a dual hook dropped. I guess we can sell that for a few dollars. Golden Shower now only penetrates 5 targets. Okay, so this is the Golden Shower destroy and debuff point in our patch notes. Golden Shower now does slightly less damage. So basically, like, don't use the Golden Shower anymore is kind of what they're saying, I guess. That sucks. I think there's quite a few changes that were sort of in line with the same thinking. So it's a little frustrating that those seem to be common. Oh, got another Demon Man. Nope, no drop. Alright, next one. Auto Hammer can only be bought after killing Plantera, so we can't make Shroomite stuff until we get past that point in the progression line, so I guess, yeah, that's fine. The Mushroom Spear can now only be obtained once you have killed one of the mech bosses. That's not a huge deal. Killing one of them I don't think is going to be a problem for most people, unless the amount that they increase their damage and stuff is prohibitively difficult, which I'm not believing that it probably would be. We'll see. In general, I think the sentiment has been that a lot of the hard mode changes are basically just to pad out the end game by making everything more difficult, which is frustrating. I mean, perfectly honestly, I feel that that is a little bit frustrating. Instead of adding more content, you're just making all the content here take longer, which is then not really very rewarding, especially for people who've already gone through it. If you ever had to do it again, it's like, well, I did this before, it was a little bit easier and more enjoyable then. But whatever. I guess that's just the way things are, and we can't really cry too much over it, because it's not my game to make that decision. And maybe they wanted things to be a little bit more in the way that they are now the whole time. They just hadn't had the chance to address all of the balance changes at the same time, and now they have. Where did that... Oh, there he is. I saw he threw out one of those... Oh, that's wings. Yeah, I saw the trident go by, and I'm like, I don't know where that dude is. Anyway, next one... hard mode. Souls now sell for less, and also Gungnir now sells for less. My apologies on my pronunciation, that was a little horrifying. But yeah, that's just a general sentiment, was that if you sold those swords, or spears I think it was, right? That was kind of easy mode for collecting money, so I guess they wanted to quell that concept. No more of that will be happening. So there's now a new meta on what we need to use to gain money quickly. But I guess also we won't be spending it as quickly either, considering changes have been made as it regards to the reforging process, which was also the vast majority of where I think most people's money went post-hard mode. Okay, next one. The Hamush has had its sale price increased. Whatever, money's not a huge deal. As I was just going over, I usually found myself in mostly a surplus of it, so I'm not worried about that by much. Poison Staff and Frost Staff do less damage now. Okay, that kind of sucks. Chlorophyte, slightly more rare and grows slower, so this is again what I was hitting on a second ago with the concept of padding out the endgame content by making things take longer and become a little bit more tedious, with the exception of the keys and the key molds, rather. That would be the one big change, I think, where things have been sort of eased up a little bit, but it seems like mostly everything else has been made to take a bit longer, which I think people are probably slightly rightfully frustrated about, but again, not my choice to make. Crystal Leaf does a bit more damage and shoots faster as a spell, I think. Rod of Discord now takes 1/6 of your life rather than 1/5. Something takes less life. Is the Rod of Discord the one that lets you teleport? I think it may be. So if that's the case, then I guess cool. Rod of Discord debuff now lasts 8 seconds down from 10, so debuff lasting less time, usually a good idea, or as long as it's on you. Slightly buffed Shotgun, Marrow, Ice Bow. All of those things have been buffed slightly. What else? Slightly buffed Repeater damage, not an item I really used much ever, actually. Increase the damage of the Terra Blade, increase the damage of True Excalibur, increase damage of True Night's Edge. So this is the opportunity for melee characters to maybe gain a little bit of a foothold, when I think a lot of us sort of felt like the consensus was that melee damage was a little bit underpowered. Although mostly all of the melee endgame stuff sort of has a projectile-based attack, so that sort of does counteract the fact that melee is sort of at a disadvantage just by being in the face of your enemy that you're attacking when you're using it. Where are we now? Terrorblade, True Excalibur, True Night's Edge shoot beams more rapidly, so that sort of goes in line with what I was just saying. Rainbow Rod does more damage. Rainbow Guns, Rainbow now lasts 10 seconds. I'm not sure if that's up or down. I think it probably is up, though. So yeah, longer longer rainbow on screen is probably good for people who use that. I can't imagine too many people use the rainbow gun all the time, but, you know, I guess cool for you if you do. Buffed Unholy Spear use speed. Okay, nice. Lowered the damage of chlorophyte bullets. That sucks. That was my go-to bullet. I guess we've lowered the damage on it now. New hard mode ore spawns slightly less and is slightly harder to craft. What does that mean, slightly harder to craft? Does that mean it takes more ore per bar? Is that kind of what we're going for in that? That's another one of those, like, let's make things take longer than necessary, I guess, type options. Not a huge fan of that stuff. I think the amount of ore that I was getting was actually relatively low for some of the hard mode ores, specifically like the adamantite and, what is it, palladium? The top tier ores before you get to the stuff that you find in the jungle. Yeah, it seems like these things keep running out really fast. Did they slow these down too, or speed up how quickly they despawn? I don't know. Next one. Palladium pickaxe can no longer mine adamantite and titanium. Titanium, that was the other one. Alright, so that's, again, keeping things in proper tiers. We just got a beam sword. Why did we get a beam sword? I guess that's a drop from here. Whatevers. Meteor heads no longer drop loot in hard mode, so they've killed your ability to do farming the way I was doing for the various key molds by, you know, putting down a bunch of meteorite and then letting the heads spawn in, so you could just basically turn off the game and just let stuff grind out automatically. I guess they didn't want that, so that's gone. Kind of unfortunate, I guess, for people who enjoy doing things that way, but now you gotta actually hang out and do it yourself. But then again, if things drop more readily anyway, then maybe it won't be too big of a deal. Geez, give me some MP, would ya? Oh, I'm using the wrong weapon, that's why that was happening. Increased Lost Girl spawn chance. That's not that big of a deal, I guess. I don't think... Does she even drop anything other than the banner that's something you want to collect? She's just, like a random NPC that shows up in the caves, I think, and she'll just aggro on you, I think. If it's the same person. Unless I'm thinking of the succubus, which may or may not be the same thing. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Scourge the Corruptor does slightly more damage. Scourge of the Corruptor, rather. Corruption, Crimson Hallow Grass Wall spreads further. Okay. So I guess now people who have had their elevators set apart one wall to the next for a reason to try and keep that from happening. Maybe they need to now redig their elevators, or dig them further out, I mean. That's a little frustrating. Why did that really need to happen? I'm not sure. The whole spreading of corruption thing is frustrating to me sometimes. Next thing. Frostburn debuff now does more damage over time. Fair enough. Added Spectre Mask and Spectre Damage set bonus. I don't know what that means. Spectre Mask and Spectre Damage set bonus. I guess I'll just have to look into that. What is... I mean, I have my Spectre gear on right now. Magic damage done to enemies heals the player low. Yeah, that's just kind of the way that's always been. For some reason, I'm not able to parse the actual true meaning of that. Maybe there's another item that changes the set bonus or something. Nerfed Spectre Healing Helmet. Great, so less healing for us. That's great. Spectre Healing Armor now uses more mana instead of decreasing mana usage. Okay, I'm starting to worry a little bit, because this is kind of like how I got by. What is this? Redens, I don't know how to say that word. Redenazor shoots lasers a bit slower, and also do slightly less damage. Yeah, that was actually a really annoying enemy, so I'm kind of glad that they changed that. That's those dudes that show up in, like, Hallowed at night, that are just, like... Oh, wait, no, it's not. Those are the what the hell is it? The event, the... Eclipse. Those are the Eclipse ones, I believe. That I wasn't even having any real success finding them, even. They were just barely around. But anyway, apparently they shoot lasers less frequently. So that's cool, I guess. Where are we? The North Pole now does less damage and has a cap on its projectiles. Well, that sucks, because that was basically the strongest weapon, as everyone was telling me. so I guess I don't want to look forward to it quite as much now. And last one in this category, increase Scourge of the Corruptor's damage. I feel like we already talked about Scourge of the Corruptor's damage. Whatever. Alright, now, what are we still looking at? There's so many more, aren't there? Oh my god. Alright, this list is, like, still going for ages, so I guess we're gonna not really be able to keep doing this for much longer. I'll just hit the pre-hard mode balance changes, and then maybe we'll do the rest on another episode or something like that. Or maybe we just won't do them at all, because I don't know how useful all this stuff is. A lot of them are bug fixes and optimizations, things to make things better. Yeah, this is kind of behind-the-scenes stuff we probably don't need to really talk about, so you could probably check this out yourself if you want. But anyway, the last bit of changes here, lesser mana potions are no longer craftable. They will always be sold by the merchant. Tim is now more common. I guess that's an NPC. The increased B-gun damage by 1. Nature's Gift is now slightly more common. Increased mana damage use, mana usage of gem staves. Slightly lowered damage of higher tier gem staves, and lowered value of magic dagger and B-gun. So I think that's going to pretty much do it. That is a lot of changes, and again, there's still like another 100-something, I think, in the optimizations area and bug fixes, so hopefully less crashing going on. From what I can tell, though, I think the bug fixes are going to include issues with that chest thing that I was talking about at the beginning of the episode, perhaps. I'm not sure. Maybe that was just an issue that I was having. Let me know if you're also having that problem as well in your own game, that you aren't able to successfully rename chests. Perhaps also by the time this video goes up, that already might be fixed, so it might even be a null factor. So that's going to do it, guys. This is a long episode. I hope you guys enjoyed going over patch notes with me, and I hope you found it at least somewhat useful. Lots of changes, some good, some bad, some indifferent, many indifferent, to be honest. And let me know what you think of this patch in general as well. I'd love to hear your comments as it pertains to the patch. Oh, I see a new and common hangout friendly NPC, Butterfly. That's, yeah. Hi, Butterfly. We can fly together because we both have wings. Can I take your wings and put them on my back? I guess I probably can because I think I have butterfly wings that I can put on. Do I have any? I just want to put on some kind of a cosmetic wing. Oh, what if I put the hoverboard as my cosmetic? I guess I kind of know what's going to happen, don't I? Yeah, that's not really that surprising, is it? Anyway, guys, I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support on Terraria. Since there's some new stuff to see and do, perhaps we'll see some more episodes coming up of this a little bit more frequently. Series is still not done by any means, just sort of winding down a little bit, if that's probably the correct way to say it. And there's still supposed to be another big event that's being added. I'm going to have to refigure out how to fight all the bosses now, apparently, because my strategy seems like it's all been nerfed in this patch. So let me know that as well in the comments. I'd like to hear what I might have in mind to do next for how I deal with the bosses. And I have no idea what's going to happen if the next big event makes things even harder than the Frost Moon, because I already can't handle things the way they are. That is a lot of voodoo dolls. I don't think I've ever picked up this many from one stint in hell before. But anyway, I will catch you next time. Thank you for watching. Talk to you later. Oh, and one more thing before I go. As I was putting away my inventory items, actually, I realized there's actually, it looks like a really big bug that I happen to have stumbled upon, and hopefully this isn't happening to you guys as well, but in case it is, I just want to point it out. When I was putting all my weapons away, I noticed, like, okay, up here, all of this stuff has the proper prefixes with the damage points and everything, all the, whatever is changed with the green percentages at the bottom. Then if I go down here, all of the things, they have their prefixes, but it doesn't look like any of them are showing what those mean. So anything in chests seems like whatever the prefix is, it's there. It might still be augmenting the amount of damage that it's doing, but it's like it's not showing up. That's a little worrisome. Kind of affects the way the game is played. I'm wondering if I put one of these in my inventory and then quit the game and reload it, if it would actually display properly. I'll have to test that another time. Anyway, just wanted to hit that before I go. So thank you again for watching. I will catch you later.